This week I'm in the top Polestar 2. Now it might seem like we've done Polestar 2 to death. It's an offshoot of Volvo originally, but now it's its own standalone company. As such, it produces really good, high quality sports cars. Now it's got matrix lights and they're absolute pearlers. And they look very pretty as well. And the black is metallic, but I'm not sure if that shows up on the film. And this is an 82 kilowatt battery with 350 kilowatts worth of power. There are the beautiful Swedish gold Polestar brake calipers and air cap. But that's just a few of the things that you get in this top model. Now I did a few calculations, and with all of the stuff that's in this car, on the road it was around $93,000 because it's got the performance pack and the lights pack and all of this sort of stuff. All of that extra stuff costs money, but is it worth it? Well, yes. It's got a 0 to 100 of 4.2. There's plenty of room in the back seat, a couple of vents, the seat controls and some power outlets. And anyone that's been in a Polestar 2 has probably been in one because they're Ubers. Now in the back, there's the characteristic Polestar light bar. Everybody can see a Polestar coming a mile off. There's quite a spacious boot, even though it is a little shallow. Some sensible straps, a 12 volt outlet, and there's even this little half a boot so that your oranges won't roll around too much. At the top of which there's a couple of bag hooks. Underneath, oodles of space for more storage and your cables. There's a lock and close button on the tailgate, and that means that you don't have to schlep around the front when you've got your hands full of Coles bags. And you simply start it by having the key in your pocket and getting in, then closing the door. There's no head-up display, but there is a fairly comprehensive dashboard for the driver and this superb portrait style tablet. It does mean the vents are stuck up the top in a kind of awkward spot, but at least they're not directly in your face. The Google interface is fairly easy to use. All of the buttons are where you expect them to be. So let's explore some of these buttons. You can go into the main menu for the vehicle. And this is where you adjust your steering and so forth, creep and the one pedal driving. Let's have that on light. Your driver and assistant settings, your charge settings, and more is just the stuff that you don't really look at very much, interior lights and so forth. But the main page operates like your phone. So a Google phone or an iPhone, people will be very familiar with some of these icons. Have a look at this one. Air quality. It's telling me that the air quality inside is very good. Outside, also very good. And the pollutants are low. But go into performance and you'll see the G meter, people that want Gs, and that is what passes as a launch control. A launch control in an EV. Oh my God. Overhead there's a glass roof that doesn't have a cover, unfortunately. In there you'll just see, or you might see, that there's a Polestar insignia being projected up onto the roof from this little buttress. And the console is so crisp and clean. There's just the Polestar gear selector, park, because this doesn't have an on button, the audio controls, hazard flasher, and the demisters. The lighting controls, they couldn't be easier. Zip it right up for automatic, and you'll see up here an automatic light appears, and that means the matrix lights are doing their thing. On the other side, even though they're not marked, these are controls for audio and phone and so forth, including voice. This is a little bit trickier. This is a multi-purpose button for things like cruise control and so forth. And that's also the smart steering button. So unfortunately, it's a little difficult to show you, but I've put it in gear And these symbols along the bottom are the ones for cruise control and smart steering. The fabric and fittings, beautiful quality, some of it's recycled. The leather is sensibly tanned, which means it's not using harmful things like, I think it's chrome, etc. Not the best if you're trying to be kind to the planet and polar bears and so forth. I've signed into all my Google accounts, and this car is now an extension of my Google account. So for example, I can say, hey Google, turn on lights.
All right, turning 2 lights on.
That's my home automation, so it's turned on 2 lights at home. Hey Google, turn lights off.
Sure, turning 2 lights off.
You'll notice one of the updates here was YouTube. There's inbuilt apps, just like there is on your phone. There's tons of space here, including a spot for a very large coffee. Just going to put that there. Now, once you're sitting in the car and you've got the key in your pocket, it just starts. All you do is sit in the seat and put it in gear. Once you've done that, you can look at the frameless mirrors outside and make sure it's safe to take off, and off you go. Some of the things that we haven't looked at relate to things like audio and so forth. The audio system in this is absolutely sensational. Hey Google, air conditioning 19 degrees.
All right, changing the AC to 19 degrees.
This works far better than almost any of the other systems. Now you'll see that I set the one pedal driving to standard, and in a Polestar that's very aggressive. It will take you right down to 0. I'll show you that in a minute. The handling is, this is one of the best handling cars I've ever driven. And that's a big call. I mean, supercars notwithstanding. Now, launch control, launch. Okay, I'm now ready. The car's squatted down. And you can see that it took off really quickly. So it feels very strange. You put your foot on the brake and the car squats down, but it's not trying to take off. It's absolutely astounding. And it feels kind of like your face is being peeled off. Let me just give those windscreen wipers a blast. The water for the windscreen wipers is actually in the wiper arm itself. I'm going to activate the cruise control, which is now active. And although it's not marked, the right-hand button is actually the auto steering. So that's actually now steering all by itself, with me just watching. This has got some other really smart things too. It predicts when you might run off the road and prepares itself for an accident.
Sure, I'm setting your destination to...
Not only has it set my destination, which was one of my favorites anyway, it's told me what percentage of battery I'll have on arrival and approximately what time I'll arrive. This operating system is Google, so not Android Auto, but a Google OS. The one thing that you'll notice is with the performance pack comes performance suspension, so that makes it quite firm. The ride is quite firm, and in some of the Ubers you'll notice that the ride was pretty damned uncomfortable. And Polestar told me that that's because a lot of the operators were not using the correct tyres. So this does have speed sign recognition, but it's wrong. It's the problem I've got with speed sign recognition is in almost all brands it is wrong much of the time. When I was speaking to my Polestar representative the other day, I asked her why someone would buy a Polestar over a Volvo, and she said that at least as it stands at the moment, Polestar is still the performance brand of the Geely group. So it's taken me right down to stop. If you want to put the brake on, the brake hold, you do have to actually put your foot on the foot brake. Then we come to range. The range I noticed in the spec sheet and on the website is 500 and something. When I picked this up, it was 430. In order to give you an idea of how often you have to charge the car, I've done, as I always say every week, I've used this car the way you would use it. I've been to the outskirts of the city, to Pie in the Sky, to get a coffee and a pie. I've done my weekly shopping, picked up a few friends, dropped off a few friends, used the small boot area for my Coles bags and Woolworths bags. We don't want to play favourites. And I've still got 280 kilometres left. I loved Polestar when it came out, and there's some new Polestars coming out in the near future. And the advantage they'll have over this one is not an EV platform. It is an EV, but it's not on an EV only platform. And that means there's a big hump in the floor where the oily bits for an ICE car would go. This is one of my favorite cars. The only EV that I've driven that I like better is the Audi GT e-tron RS. And that costs 3 times as much. That's all this week from Polestar 2. The top performance model, I think, is the bee's knees. I would have one of these in a flash. But as always, hit like, leave a comment, and just over there to subscribe.